Yo people, welcome back to another one. Thank you to everyone that has been subbing recently. We have reached the 300 subs goal. So thanks again to everyone that is involved, all 300 plus of you. And now we move on to the road to 400 subs. Now, we have just seen the finale of The Mandalorian Season 3, and straight off the bat, I'm going to say that I think Jon Favreu has left the season at a point where if he does actually leave, he's left it at a clear ending. Also, if Pedro Pascal leaves, then that's sorted as well. I get the feeling that a lot of the backstage politics has hurt this season a lot. The rumours about Jon and Pedro arguing over the amount of FaceTime Pedro will have in the show. Rumours that apparently Pedro is only going to get paid as a voice actor this season. Also the rumours that Kathleen was the one that forced Grogu back into the story, which is not something that Jon and Dave had in mind. As for this episode, it felt a bit rushed, and I think there were a lot of missed opportunities within this episode, as well as the overall season in my opinion. Despite all the stuff I'm about to say, I'd still give this episode like maybe a 6 or a 7, so Shields, calm down. However, it seemed like they went for the safe option every single time, which isn't a bad thing, but sometimes if you can take those calculated risks that make sense, it has a bigger payoff. And to be honest, if Grogu had stayed with Luke this entire time, both of them could have returned to this exact same point of the season, except that this time you would have had the big reunion between Grogu and Mando. We would have been able to see what Grogu's been up to in terms of his powers. It would have made a lot more sense and a lot more satisfaction to the overall story. Yes, people would say they're relying on Luke again, but you would have paid it off with Grogu and Mando yet again. Grogu could have been in this episode in the exact same way doing the force fire shield thing that he did. And yeah, because Grogu didn't really contribute to this entire season anyway, so they might as well just have done that. So you can definitely tell he was forced in just with that alone. This episode just felt like action, 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 one after the other. And even the moments where we see Moff Gideon's clones, like we don't even get time to take it all in because they destroy it anyways. Mando goes off to fight Gideon after the discovery. Does that mean that this entire time when Gideon was looking for Grogu in seasons 1 and 2, this was his plan all along? They didn't even tease it, they didn't even mention it or anything. They didn't even play with the idea that Gideon had even managed to get Grogu's blood in the first place, which is something that you would have to remember from season 2 when he actually says it. They don't even make a big deal out of the fact that Moff Gideon has basically managed to, according to him, perfect the force-sensitive cloning, which is something extremely difficult to perform. 3 seasons of planning and potential crushed in seconds because Din Djarin presses some buttons. I don't know. I didn't really like that. Also, we never find out who actually freed Moff Gideon. His death was very weak, to be honest. There's just a lot happening with him that could have fleshed out a lot more of his character, made him a lot more of a threat, and given us a longer impact, and it could have connected a lot more of the dots. But no, we just get an unsatisfactory death. It seemed a bit weird, and because it feels weird, for some reason I just think that Moff Gideon is still alive. What if that wasn't even him fighting Mando in the Iron Man suit in the first place? I don't know, I just think it was a pretty cheap death for someone as big as him and someone as smart as him. I would have liked to see him have a moment where he pays tribute to Darth Maul as well, maybe giving us like a backdrop which explains why he has the horns on the helmet and why he's obsessed with wanting the Force. Like, I think Darth Maul would have been a good connection, but yeah, again, very safe or lack of explanations when it comes to this episode. It felt kind of stupid that he could track Mando down and he's watching his every single move, yet he allows him to go into the cloning room and destroy the clones as well. The fight would have been a lot more better if it was in that room itself. There isn't a lot of good to talk about which wasn't already self-explanatory and straightforward. I actually like the fighting when they were all on their jetpacks, all the Mandos, all the troopers, they were fighting in the air. It kind of reminded me of Clone Wars, so fair play to that. That's probably the best action of this season. Also, I like that Mando actually got the spotlight again in his own show, which was good to see. Imagine that. This is the era that we're in. A positive for a show is the protagonist is actually acting like a protagonist. Yeah, Disney is actually going downhill. It was also nice to see that Grogu kind of connected with the mythosaur. I don't know if that's what they were implying or whatever, but he looked at the water. The mythosaur opened his eyes. I don't know. Let's not talk about the Din Grogu name either. Din Grogu just sounds weird. The Darksaber being crushed and broken. I think that was a nice bit of symbolism, kind of destroying the past and the old regime, kind of looking forward to the new era. I mean, they can still create a new Darksaber anyway, so it's not that big of a deal that it got crushed. It's not like actually disrespecting a lightsaber like they did in the sequels, so that's good with me. However, I also don't get how Bo-Katan still stays at the top of the hierarchy. She didn't technically win the fight against Moff Gideon by herself. She has no Darksaber, and she didn't even get on the Mythosaur, so I'm not too sure. Are they just, again, going with the straightforward thing? You were the leader before, so you're just going to remain the leader. Can people challenge her? What's the situation they're going to be? I don't know. Also, another thing from the episode, it turns out that in the previous episode, when it was called The Spies, with a S, plural, it was referring to that Kane lady that works for Moff Gideon. However, clearly it's referring to someone else. So who was the other person? I think that a lot of us were banking on some sort of big betrayal, and that never happened. Again, playing it safe. Overall, there wasn't really any character development for anyone. There wasn't any real struggle throughout the entire season for anyone. It wasn't a bad or irredeemable season. It definitely got saved by those last 2 episodes, which I think should have been the standard for all of the episodes across. But whatever, like I've said, this happened. I think that it's gone from kind of being a mid or below average show to probably average to just a bit better than average, or maybe just a bit higher. I hope they can sort out the backstage beef and everything, because it really affected this product. We'll see what happens, if there'll be a season 4, if Jon Favreu leaves, if Pedro Pascal leaves. Next on is Ahsoka, which I will be reviewing. So I don't know, for me that's the make or break for Disney Star Wars. If Ahsoka manages to flop, then it's a flatline for Disney Star Wars. But yeah, shout out to everyone that made it this far. I appreciate the support. Thanks again for the 300 subs. We will be pushing harder for the 400 subs. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next one.